So, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us for this essential practice of Fusatsu. Pardon me. My name is Bokushu, and the ceremony thus far has consisted of us doing the Gata of Atonement and having connected with all the evil karma throughout all space and time. A pretty big job, but we did it. Then we visited the various energies and archetypes that are prominent in our practice to get more energy, to then vow to save all sentient beings. Save all of them. All of them. How many are there? Where are they? Many, many beings. Saving them all. Mastering the boundless dharmas. Taming our desires, which are numberless. And attaining the Buddha way, which is unattainable. How do we attain what is unattainable? I'm not going to attempt to answer it, but we vowed to do it, so let's just find a way to do it. And then we have this little interregnum during which the Kaishi, in this case, this person, offers teisho on the precepts. So I've been thinking a lot about the precepts because the news is just so dire in so many places, so many awful things happening, preventably awful things happening, and they're being done by people. Wars, starvation, bombings, killings. Occasionally the newspapers sprinkle in a heartwarming story of a fireman who adopts a cat with one leg, or something falls out of a tree and they catch it and doesn't die. Something like that gets sprinkled in every once in a while. But most of it's pretty grim. And so I was asking myself, why do people do these things? Why is this happening? And the answer that came to me, and feel free to completely disagree with it, is that we cannot live with ourselves and we cannot live with each other. I think a lot of it, if not all of it, comes right out of that. We just can't live with ourselves or each other. And it's a lucky thing we're all here, because what we're doing here is the absolutely perfect antidote to this inability that we have always had as a species to live with ourselves and with each other. The perfect antidote. And it consists of two components, both of which we've done today. Here, or here. We have meditated. And what happens in meditation is we look at the thing that's meditating. There's nothing else to do but look at the thing that's meditating. And that's what we do. For a half an hour, we look at that. And that's a job in itself, to sit still and just look at what's there. What is this thing? I'm not even going to go into it all. It's a huge, huge thing to do that, because how on earth can you expect to live with yourself if you don't know what you're living with? This is the way to discover all the deep, horrific and wonderful shit that is dwelling in each of us, and that we must come to terms with if we are to have a hope of living with some semblance of peace with ourselves. We've got to look at it a lot, again and again and again, because of course it keeps changing, right? It's called impermanence, but we have our habits and we have our patterns, and whether they're good or bad, we like them. So we've got to keep going back and looking. And by God, I have to tell you, in my experience, it works. We can learn to live with ourselves. Not just live with ourselves, but actually enjoy being what we are in each moment. We can enjoy that. And that is a tremendous gift to the world. If you can walk down the street with a little bit of enjoyment of what you are right then, without attaching to it, without asserting it, or beating it up, you're giving something to the world that it desperately needs. And all you have to do is walk down the street and look in people's faces, and you'll get that the desperate need is there. And then the other thing we do, so that's component one. Component two is the precepts. How do we live with each other? The precepts are a roadmap for how we can live with each other. They are a roadmap for our suffering as well. I mean, the practice, as I harp on continually, is a way to reduce suffering. And the precepts are nothing but a card catalog of the classics. Remember those records they used to sell on TV? Maybe they still do. And there's more. You know, that kind of thing. Well, we've got 16, and 10 are grave precepts. And these are the ways that we compensate and cope with the fact that we can't live with other people. We kill them. We steal from them. We misuse sex with them. We lie to them. We consume and give and receive alcohol and drugs from them and with them. We talk about others' errors and faults. We elevate ourselves and blame others. We're stingy with the Dharma assets. We indulge our anger. This is a big one, right? A lot of that going on. We indulge our anger, and we defame the precepts. We slander the three treasures. So this is just what we do because we cannot cope with living in this society, in this world. It is immensely, apparently, I've experienced this, immensely painful. Human beings are in a lot of pain. I think most of the time, human beings don't even know that they're in the amount of pain they're in. It's kind of staggering. And so what do we do with that pain? Well, we kill, steal, lie, and so forth. It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything about the pain. It actually just exports. We're in the export business. We like to export our pain. And the precepts are a catalog of how we do it. So by coming here and recommitting ourselves to the precepts, we are learning to live with others. That too is an enormous, enormous job. But you have to start somewhere. And because we are practicing with all beings throughout all space and time, we are helping all beings throughout all space and time to live with each other and themselves. That is just wonderful. And those of you who are here, on screen or in the room, I just can't thank you enough for coming and doing this, because it is so desperately needed. So it's the custom of these talks that the speaker will focus on one of the grave precepts. And the one that just popped up for me that I needed to talk about was the 10th. Not defaming the three treasures. So, the three treasures are, of course, also invoked in the first part of the precepts, the three refuges. So the precepts as a whole, the 16 of them, begin and end with the three treasures. It's like this. It's like an enso. That's the precepts. We come back to the three treasures. So the three refuges are, I take refuge in the Buddha, the awakened nature of all beings. This is oneness. I take refuge in the Dharma, the ocean of wisdom and compassion. This is diversity. I take refuge in the Sangha, the interdependence of all creations. This is harmony. Well, harmony takes many forms. Sometimes it doesn't look so harmonious, does it? But even when it doesn't look harmonious, it is in fact harmony. From the largest possible perspective, we are putting our shoulder to the wheel to gain the harmony that these three refuges speak of. And then at the end of the precepts, the 10th or 16th, is not defaming the three treasures. So that's interesting. Why would someone defame the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha? Well, it depends, of course, on what you mean by defame. And of course, it also depends on what you mean by Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So I hope not to go on too long with what those might be. So maybe this precept is first a relic from a more sectarian age when Buddhism was not easily accepted. There were other schools, other belief systems, and Buddhism had to make its way in a crowded spiritual marketplace. So it's not always been ignoring the marketing aspect of it, this sect of ours. So there might have been a bit of assertion of the fact that Buddhism is a bona fide religion, that this is an important spiritual endeavor. But I think it actually has deeper implications. We are the Buddha, we are the Dharma, and we are the Sangha. So we're slandering or defaming or blaspheming ourselves. And if you were hearing what I was saying a little while ago, we don't know how to live with ourselves. So doesn't it make sense that we would defame ourselves? I don't know about anyone here, but I've had my moments of deep sadness about what I perceive this to be. Deeply critical thoughts, harmful narratives, undermining this. And part of it was, I think I wanted to do it better than anyone else could. So they couldn't get one up on me. I was going to make sure I was aware of every problem here, so nobody could tell me more. Nobody could take me by surprise. But what about you? What about you in your dialogue with what you call yourself? How has that been for you? How is that for you now? If we can't learn to live with ourselves, all bets are off. We will kill, we will steal, we will misuse sex, we will lie, and so on. It all starts with loving ourselves and others, the third of the 3 pure precepts. So, let's see. I'm going to read some quotes that I thought were interesting about the precepts and this precept in particular. And then I'll get to some commentaries by Bodhidharma and Dogen. Philip Kapleau, in his very famous 3 Pillars of Zen in 1965, wrote, "The observance of the precepts is important not alone for ethical reasons, because one cannot progress on the road to enlightenment unless his mind is free of the inner disturbance which thoughtless or wanton behavior produces. The precepts are the foundation of spiritual practice." And then he goes on to write, "What is permanently damaging, in fact fatal to one's spiritual progress, is loss of faith in the Buddha, in the truth he revealed through his enlightenment experience, and in the confirmatory words of the patriarchs." Without getting into a lot of detail, I think this is a very crude understanding of what practice is about. I'll just say, if you're here because you think that observing the precepts will help you to become enlightened, I think you may be mistaken. And I think the road to enlightenment is best undertaken without any thought of enlightenment. And I think that ethical behavior is a worthy end in itself. And a really great thing to inquire into, because the precepts are not, "Thou shalt not kill." In literal terms only, "Thou shalt not kill." What is killing? What is defaming? Well, according to the dictionary, defaming is to harm the reputation of by communicating false statements about. Can anyone harm the reputation of the Buddha? I'd like to see someone try. Can anyone harm the reputation of the Dharma? The harming is the Dharma. Nothing is excluded from the Dharma, including efforts to harm the Dharma. The Dharma is big enough and strong enough to contain all of it. Every feeble effort to harm the Dharma, to harm the Buddha, let alone the reputation of either of them or the Sangha. And what is the Sangha, by the way? If we think that it's just in this room or on these screens and these boxes, it's certainly not. Everything and everyone is the Sangha. There is no one outside of it. You might think of it as concentric circles, broken concentric circles, ever widening. So I'm not too supportive of what Mr. Kapleau or Roshi Kapleau said. Then we have Yasutani, who taught Philip Kapleau, as well as Bernie Glassman. And Yasutani said, since the 3 treasures are the essence of the precepts, those who lose faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are abject precept breakers. I love that word, abject. You can't get lower than abject. So then we have to ask ourselves, however, what is faith? What does it mean to have faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? And I think Robert Aitken helped a little bit in The Mind of Clover to express that. And he wrote, "The violation of the precept comes when you deny your unity with Buddha nature and put yourself high or low by some standard. There is no ordinary being or sage, no leader and follower, no Roshi and student. The violation of the precept comes when you deny your unity with Buddha Dharma, Buddha nature," he wrote. So it comes back to separation. That is really the way to defame the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, is to say, that's not me. I'm better than that. Or I'm worse than that. I'm inferior to that. Is there anything of which human beings are not capable right now? We see the proof every day, everywhere we look, that there is nothing that human beings, every human being, is not capable of. But with the precepts to strengthen and guide us, we can behave ethically. And that means, first and foremost, not separating from anyone or anything else. In our heads, in reality, we are not separate from anyone or anything else. But we have to realize that through sitting and through this ceremony of coming back to our home in the precepts. So Bodhidharma has a comment on this precept. Self-nature is subtle and mysterious in the realm of the One. Get it? In the realm of the One. Not holding nihilistic concepts of ordinary beings and sages is called the precept of not defaming the three treasures. The realm of the One. No sages, no ordinary beings. We're all ordinary beings. And we're all sages. It's just a matter of causes and conditions, and of our intention to adhere to the precepts and to follow this practice to the very end, whatever that might be for each of us. Dogen writes, the teisho of the actual body is the harbor and the weir. This is the most important thing in the world. Its virtue finds its home in the ocean of essential nature. It is beyond explanation. We just accept it with respect and gratitude. A harbor is a safe place for our tiny little boats in this enormous ocean of Dharma. And a weir is where fish breed, so it's this incredibly fertile and dynamic place. Some place that is safe and incredibly dynamic. That is our practice. That is the precepts. It is beyond explanation. We just accept it with respect and gratitude. It's hard for human beings to just accept anything. Our impulse is always to try to change it. We don't like it, therefore it must change. And we know how it should change, and we will be the ones to do it. How many horrific things have been done with that in mind? Probably all of them. I'm going to fix this. This is wrong and I'm right. What a nightmare to think that way. So I think Dogen's really onto something. We just accept it with respect and gratitude. And the Zen peacemaker's rendition of this precept is, honoring my life as an instrument of peacemaking. This is the precept of not thinking ill of the three treasures. What is a peacemaker? First and foremost, someone who does not separate from anyone and anything else, who does not hold themselves above or below the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. That is peacemaking. So, in this incredibly painful, suffering world, with all its beauty and joys, let's go forward with the precepts and help the world through our own devoted practice. Thank you so much for being here.